Hello, I'm John Bathke. This is Stage and Studio. Kate Baldwin has just concluded her run on Broadway, portraying one of theater's most iconic characters, Roxy Hart, in the musical Chicago. It is the latest in a long list of Broadway performances that have garnered her 2 Tony Award nominations for Finian's Rainbow and Hello, Dolly, opposite Bette Midler. She also frequently stars in productions on stages in the state that she calls home, New Jersey. And beginning March 13th, she will be performing a series of concerts at Manhattan's 54 Below. It is my pleasure to welcome Kate Baldwin to Stage and Studio. Kate, hello.
Hi, John. Thank you so much for having me. It's lovely to see you on this snowy, cold day.
It certainly is. I was just thinking the last time that you and I saw each other in person, I think, was I was leaving. We were both at the same show. We were both at John Proctor's The Villain.
Oh my
I think
gosh.
yeah, and I walking out, we just kind of waved at each other like
Yeah.
from across the theater. And
Yeah.
I always wonder what it is like to be an actor watching a show. What goes through your mind? What are you noticing when you see a show? I think it could be something different than what I experience. What is that like?
I'm not sure. Because I'm a fan first. Yes, I'm an actor, but I started off as a fan. I loved theater as a kid and as a high school student, and seeing something as skillfully put together as John Proctor's The Villain, ticks all the boxes for me for a great night of storytelling and thought-provoking, moving theater. I had a dear friend in that production. I actually just talked with her yesterday. Her name is Molly Griggs, and she was an actress who replaced Beanie Feld's Hello, Dolly with me. So I was there to cheer on my pal. And I was also there because I think John Proctor's The Villain is a seminal work, a very important and timely work. I'm so thrilled to know that it's going to play London. It's going to be made into a movie. It's just a great piece of theater that will reach a much wider audience now because of those 2 future productions of it. And
But you don't sit there and say, oh, I could have done this with it, or
no,
you don't.
no, 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 no. No, I'm fascinated and enchanted just the same way you are. I mean, I would assume so. Because I'm listening to the story for the very first time. It was all new to me. I wasn't sure what to expect. And part of the thing that makes theater good, or good theater good, is suspense, is not knowing what comes next. So I delight in being surprised. I delight in being taken along on the ride. Yeah, I'm a fan just like you.
I just mentioned that you have just finished your run playing Roxy Hart
Yeah.
in Chicago. Is that a role that you've had your sights on for a while? Is that something that you had always wanted to do?
I'm going to say no again. It was never on my bingo card, as it were. I moved to New York City in 1999, and one of my first jobs on Broadway was as a cover and in the dancing ensemble of Thoroughly Modern Millie. You may remember that show on Broadway from 2002. We won the Tony Award for Best Musical. And I found myself in a line, so to speak, with amazing career dancers. People like Roxanne Barlow, people like Amy Higgins, Joanne Hunter, who's now an incredible choreographer, Tony-nominated choreographer on Broadway. And I quickly realized that though I had considered myself a dancer in college, I was not quite as technically skilled as the women I was dancing with, who had a couple of years on me, not many, and had a lot of experience that I didn't have. And that I didn't have the hunger and the drive to become a Broadway dancer. I had the hunger and the drive to become a Broadway leading lady, and felt that my gifts were acting and singing here and dancing here. So I decided to sort of lean into the acting and the singing, and kept dance sort of in my back pocket as like something I could pull out and, reveal to a director or a choreographer or a producing team of like, well, I can sort of do this too. Like we won't have to spend a whole lot of time on choreography because I'll pick it up. But doing a dance role was never, ever in my consciousness. Not until 2021 when we were coming right out of the pandemic. And Barry Weissler, for whom I had worked before in a Broadway revival of Wonderful Town, the Weissler office called my agent and said, would Kate consider coming in to play Roxy Hart? And at the time, I just turned to my husband and said, I think they got the wrong gal. Like, do they know who I am? Like, I'm a soprano, and I do corset shows where I stand still and sing sad ballads. Like, this is sort of what my Broadway career has been up until then. Obviously, John, that I've done other things in other places, but on Broadway, I was kind of a lovely soprano. That's how I was represented up until that point. But then they called again the next year, and then they called again the next year, and I thought, oh, gee, well, they're serious. And so I went back to see the show in 2024, and I fell in love. Chicago is a timeless piece, a fantastically constructed piece of theater, and a relevant piece. And I thought to myself, there are plenty of Roxy Harts who have gone before me who were not Anne Reinking. I mean, of course, Anne Reinking originated the role of Roxy Hart in this particular revival. But there are plenty of women who have done this role with varying degrees of skill and technique. And so I could brush off my shoes. Actually, a funny story is I went to go get my shoes fitted for this show. For Chicago on Broadway, they make you custom character shoes for your two pairs of shoes, because the iconic silver buckles at the end. They've got to fit just right. So I went to a legendary shoemaker who has been working on Broadway for years and years, and they trace the outline of your foot and they measure everything. And he said, "Kate, I have you in my book, but I don't have you since 2002 in Thoroughly Modern Millie, and here it is, 2025, and now you need shoes? Where have you been?" And I guess the answer is not dancing, and I've actually been in New Jersey, so thank you for asking.
But you have been performing. I mean, you've been you've been doing a lot of stuff. How is your life different when you're in a show?
Well, it depends on the show. When I was doing Roxy Hart, I had to get a lot of sleep, and I had to make sure that I had physical therapy twice a week, make sure I had plenty of Epsom salts so I could give myself an Epsom salt bath twice a week. My massage therapist is a wonderful person. I have a personal trainer who kept me nice and strong so that I could avoid injury for that show. But vocally, that show is low. And there have been a lot of great singers who have done Roxy Hart, but I wouldn't call it a challenging singing role. I'm about to take on one of the most challenging singing roles. I'm about to go do Light in the Piazza. I don't know if you ever saw that show. Did you see it on Broadway in 2004, 2005?
No, I mean, I know it by reputation, but I've never actually seen a production of it.
It verges on opera. It is a thrilling score. And so now my job in these next couple of months is to get my opera chops back. Hang up my dancing shoes and start to slowly but surely get my legit soprano warmed up again so that I can do the Light in the Piazza in St. Louis in May and June.
Who have you learned the most from? You've worked with so many people. Bette Midler, I mentioned as we were beginning in Hello, Dolly. Who have you learned the most from?
Bette comes to mind. David Hyde Pierce, who was her co-star, Horace Vandergelder, comes to mind. Also in that formidable cast was a dear, dear pal of mine named Gavin Creel, who sadly passed away in 2024. I love to learn little tidbits as I go along because, I've been lucky enough, John, to have a career that's almost 29 years in the making. So there are little nuggets from each person. And sometimes they are direct in that Gavin would say, no moment is completely one thing. It always contains both. It's happy, sad. It can be selfish, but also grateful. It can be confusing, but also, illuminating. All those things. So he would always talk about the duality of a moment, whether it's your life or whether it's stage. David Hyde Pierce taught me to celebrate and see all your coworkers and see everybody who's there. David Hyde Pierce knew everyone's name at the Schubert Theater, not just cast, not just backstage crew, the front of house crew. And he would handwrite a birthday card and give them a bottle of champagne on their birthday. He knew everybody's birthday. He was a true gentleman, and he was sincere about it too. He was deeply empathetic and sincere, but then he could also turn on a dime and be the funniest person you've ever met. I love that about him. And then from watching Bet, I learned that no matter how successful a person is, they're still vulnerable. She still felt a great responsibility to make Hello Dolly the fabulous experience that everyone expected it to be. And she took that on. She wore that on her shoulders. Her name was not only above the title, but she was working her tail off to make sure that people who spent a lot of money to come see the show would get what they wanted and would feel her personal touch, her personal magic, because she's got that. She's got that. And she felt a deep responsibility to come up with that every night. And then it was interesting because watching her leading up to opening night and then receiving all the love and the praise on opening night, her shoulders didn't really go back down. She didn't really let loose and let herself have fun until after the Tony Awards. I thought that was an interesting thing too, because what I learned from that is, people care, and she cared so deeply, but also as her, as a supporting character to her, behemoth role of Dolly Levi. When she was having fun, we were all having fun. So I've kept that in mind too. So my Roxy heart, because I wanted everybody else who was there to play their part to have fun too.
The life of an actor is so unpredictable. And there are so many ups and downs, it feels like. And while you're very busy, has there ever been a moment in the career where the phone just is not ringing, where the offers aren't coming? And if that's happened, how do you deal with that?
The first spell of time that comes to mind is, of course, the pandemic. We were all in the same boat of having the rug pulled out from under us, and all the plans that I had made for on-stage work and concert work were gone. And though I spent the better part of a year kind of adrift, and I was so envious of so many people who remained creative online and could post videos or projects that they could throw themselves into and share online. And it's actually interesting. I have this set up here with a microphone and headphones and all this kind of stuff because my husband, Graham Rowett, who's also an actor and who's far more technologically adept than I am, and I started gathering all of the materials you need in order to have a good lighting, good sound, because then slowly but surely we started producing little songs, videos to send out to family, friends, people who requested a song or a message. And that felt really good to be able to do that. But that kind of it took a while to figure out that that's what we were going to do, because the uncertainty and the anxiety of that time was paralyzing, honestly, for me, because I didn't know what was going to happen next, right? And when you're uncertain, how do you invest in creating your stuff. It was hard for me. I got there. I eventually got there. But what I got to was, you know, I really do love musical theater. I really do love telling a story on stage in front of a live audience, whether it's a concert or a play or a big old musical or just, you know, a two-hander in a basement somewhere. Um, I really had to embrace my fandom. My first, you know, the first question you asked me, which was about, you know, where I said I'm a fan too. I had to admit, kind of, and fully embrace that. I think the way to get through any anxious period, and I've talked to a lot of young people about this recently, is to reach out to your community, to your friends, to your family, saying, "Are you feeling this way? Here's how I'm feeling." And chances are you're going to find people who can relate and can understand what it's like to feel a little adrift, a little lost. And you can remind them and they can remind you that you belong to each other and we belong to one another. And just like the same way a cast bonds as a sort of quick family, you have to sort of quickly, you know, make relationships with each other because you're in each other's business all the time. You are in such close quarters with one another that you do start to treat each other like family. That doesn't go away once a show closes. You can reach out and you can still keep those bonds. Like I was just saying, my friend Molly Griggs, who was in John Proctor's The Villain, we just chatted last night. We haven't worked together since 2018, but she's one of my best pals. And so I extend that invitation to most of the people, all of the people that I've worked with who remain in my thoughts and in my family. It's pretty big.
You're about to do soon a concert at 54 Below, which is a famous club in New York. That's you, though. You're not coming on as a character. You're coming out as Kate, and you are doing songs and talking to the audience. How is that different? Is that an opportunity to show a much different side of you on stage? And is there any fear in doing a show like that because there's not a character to work
Yes, always. Yeah. Is there any fear? Yes, there's fear. I'm meeting with my collaborator and music director, Georgia Stitt, the award-winning composer and lyricist and force of nature. That is Georgia Stitt. She's been my friend for basically as long as I lived in New York. And we are having a planning meeting today, so it's timely that you asked this question because we're going to figure out what the show's about. Once I have an idea of what the show is, I can then figure out which version of Kate that I'm doing. So you say there's no character, but in effect, I am playing like the concert character of Kate. And what I try to do in a concert is answer these questions. I didn't come up with this. Mike Nichols, the amazing director, came up with this in his autobiography. I got to remember that for later. I got to recommend this book to a friend. He says, each audience who sits down to see your play, your musical, your TV show, whatever it is, has two questions in their mind. What is the show about, and who is it for? And so the answer to both of those questions are you and you, meaning the audience. This is for you. This is about you. This is about how we relate to one another, how we are similar, how we go through the same stuff. Maybe I have a different take on it. Hopefully it's one that is entertaining and funny. That's what I try to lean into, is the comedy of it. But also I am going to hit you with a ballad that hopefully allows you a bit of catharsis and a bit of self-reflection and a bit of recognition so that you feel like you can lighten your burden a little bit, whether it's, crying or laughing. It's a release. I feel like it's an opportunity to give everybody a chance to release whatever they're hanging on to, because people are hanging on to a lot right now. It is heavy out there. And one of the other things I always like to lean into as well is I read an interview with Phyllis Diller once, and she said, she was a great comedian, and she said, never go more than 2 minutes without telling a joke. because people need to laugh. So every 2 minutes, there's got to be a ha 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 ha. Now, it doesn't need to be like a knee slapper, a fall on the floor laughing, but it should be a ha 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 of recognition, because that laughter means that they're with you. So I really try really hard to make sure people are laughing. And my dear director friend, Jerry Zaks, who directed Hello, Dolly, says that the sound of laughter is the sound of people falling in love. So I always remember that one too. So that gives you a little insight in what I'm going to try to craft for 54 Below for those 3 nights.
Well, Kate, it has been a pleasure to see you again and to chat with you again, and I hope I see you again very, very soon.
Me too, my friend. You're looking great, and stay warm and sunny on this cold, cold day.
Thank you so much. Coming up on Stage and Studio, a studio visit to Nimbus Dance in Jersey City as it marks a milestone. Welcome back to Stage and Studio. I'm John Bathke. There are milestones in the career of every artist, but this one is particularly special for a New Jersey-based choreographer. His dance company is performing a piece that was 10 years in the making. I paid a studio visit to Nimbus Dance.
Oh yeah, I think you can extend a little bit. Show your upper body. There we go, yeah.
Choreographer Samuel Pott found inspiration in a most unusual prop.
Patch of Turf started with a piece of artificial grass, which I came across for sale in a BJ's, which is one of those big box stores. And I brought that into the dance studio and we began to create.
Calling the dance piece Patch of Turf, the prop symbolizing the earth, it began a 10-year artistic odyssey for Pott and his Jersey City-based Nimbus Dance. Why'd you want to do it? Where'd you get the idea for this?
I guess I would say if there are 2 things in the world that connect most deeply with me, they are dance and movement, but also nature. And for me, they've always been in some way connected.
And so, over the past decade, Pott has originated 3 separate but related dance pieces inspired by nature and human interactions with the natural world, be it sky, water, earth, or animals. For the dancers, that means emulating wildlife or even plants.
Most of the time, my character is actually a cloud or a bird. It's really rare that I'm actually human. And there's also something so beautiful about the never-ending cycle.
After 10 years in development, the 3 works are now being performed together in one program for the first time. Dancer Shayla Hutton is one of the first dancers to have worked on the project. And now, as she departs Nimbus Dance, her final performance is in this challenging trilogy entitled Anima.
As much as nature is very beautiful in its way, it kind of has a mind of its own. Surrendering to the movement is a challenge, to not be so controlled in what we're doing and to kind of let it take over you just like elements of the earth would take over.
For Pott, a most personal project is now finally being shared with the public as he conceived it.
And this is a project that has allowed me to really bring together all the work that I've done for decades in ballet and modern dance and jazz dance and how to communicate on stage with this other set of experiences that I've had since I was a little kid, spending time in nature.
And you can catch the next performance of this program by Nimbus Dance at the Bickford Theater at the Morris Museum in Morris Township on February 27th. I'm John Bathke. Thank you for watching Stage and Studio.